Okay, Ryan, in the aftermath of the standoff on the 12th and after BLM had left, you guys got to go out and survey the land here and to see what damage the BLM did. Can you tell us what you found out there?
Sure. Number one, they had destroyed one of our main water tanks. It was a 12,000 gallon water tank, and pulled out a couple miles of pipeline and destroyed our water trough that went along with that water tank. We can see where they damaged some of our corrals, tore portions of them down. They had tried to dismantle a couple of the head houses, which is the areas that we get water from the springs. Again, these springs are very minimal. They're just a trickle of water, so you have to carefully collect that water, otherwise it disappears back into the ground. And they had done some damage to some of those head houses. Anyway, so that's the main damage they did to the infrastructure, and we are in need of some more steel tanks, more tanks that we can replace that tank with, and water lines, materials to replace those water lines and troughs, and corrals and so forth.
Now, Ryan, I understand that it's not just your cattle that drink out of these troughs, but it's wildlife in the area as well.
Sure. Anytime a rancher, on our ranch or any other ranch, the rancher takes the water available and spreads it out across the land and makes it available to all wildlife. Deer and elk, which we don't have so much on this ranch. We do have some deer, but also the quail, the dove, rabbits. These animals benefit greatly from the water holes and from the water available that we make available.
And this infrastructure that they damaged, that's something that you paid for out of your pocket originally, right? It wasn't something that the BLM helped you put in or pay for.
No, this one was ours. We paid for it 100% completely. And any structure, historically, again, the money from our grazing fees, what was it for? To come back, most of it was to come back as infrastructures. So we can claim ownership to all the infrastructure. But yes, this one particularly that they tore out, we built after we had no contract with them. It was 100% funded by the Bundy Ranch.
Now, I don't know if you know this figure, but what is that going to cost to replace in today's dollars?
Oh, well, again, it depends on the availability. Sometimes we can get tanks for, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000. Sometimes they cost more. Water line, you're looking at, $1 a foot to purchase the material plus the labor and expense to put it together. And, so a mile of pipe is going to cost you, $5,000 plus dollars. Water troughs, we've been building the water troughs out of old tires, particularly large earth moving equipment tires like scrapers or big loaders. Tires that are 5-6 foot in diameter, and those tires, those used old tires, make great water troughs because they can't be damaged by weather or even bullet holes. Sometimes people shoot holes in things, and anyway, so they're very resilient. But we need some of those tires. They're, we still have to buy them, even though they're used and old. They still have value. So, we're going to need a few of those.
So you're not opposed to, if anybody out there wants to donate something like that to you, you're not opposed to taking it?
No, we need that. We would appreciate that very greatly. In fact, we'd be willing to pay for some of those things if they just simply know where the availability of those are. I mean, a 12,000 gallon tank just doesn't show up every day. You've got to, we can't afford new tanks, so we rely on used tanks. Primarily, they're old used fuel tanks from service stations that are being dismantled in situations like that. But a tank doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
I haven't seen any at Home Depot lately.
No, Home Depot don't carry 12,000 gallon tanks. So,
Brian, it seems to be a lull going on here. I know the FBI is investigating the domestic terrorists. You want to say a little bit about how people felt about being called domestic terrorists?
Well, look at the definition of terrorism. Control with fear. Is that not the definition? So who's the terrorist here? Were they not terrorizing us? And are they not continually trying to terrorize us? When Harry Reid, Senate Majority Leader, a person of great power in the United States, he says this is not over and that we're coming for you type of program, and calls us domestic terrorists, is that not terrorism itself? So who's the terrorist here? You know, the Bundy family, we've not attacked anybody. All we want to do is be left alone. Let us live our life. Let us enjoy our ranch. Let us make a living here. Just leave us alone. It's that simple. You know, a terrorist is interested in trying to control and manipulate someone and using tactics of violence to accomplish their goal. Well, that's exactly what the federal government has done to us, and that is nothing of what we have done. Our act was a simple act of self-defense and defiance of tyranny.
Exactly.
It was not terrorism. And so for Harry Reid to try to label us as terrorists is a way for him to try to put us on the terrorist list, the official terrorist list, and then we would be subject to all the rules of the Homeland Security and Patriot Act, which could imprison us indefinitely without trial, to treat us as enemies of the state. And this is not what we are. We recognize that government is needed. Minimal government is needed. But we also recognize that the government that is the monstrosity that it is way out of line. Now, the militia remains here because we have no faith in the federal government. They remain here because we have no faith in the local police to protect our life, liberty, and property. They failed once. What makes us believe that they will protect us if we are attacked again? And is an attack coming? We don't know. There's been rumor after rumor after rumor after rumor that there's an attack mounting. Are any of these rumors true? Was an attack being planned? Was it thwarted because we still had militia here? I don't know. I don't know the answers to those questions. Will they attack soon? Will they attack later? I don't know the answer to those questions. But the American people do not want to see another Waco. And as I mentioned earlier in this interview, that the Bureau of Land Management said this will be another Waco. The American people realized that at Waco, they attacked without warning and without good reason. They got their butts kicked to begin with. They backed off, and then they returned with hell's fury and all their armaments, and they killed, I don't know the exact number, 127 people, men, women, children, burned them to the ground after they shot several of them, after they holed them up in their compound for 90-something days or something of the sort. I don't have all the stats and details with me in front of me, but I know that they besieged them, and they led the public astray with their media, calling them all sorts of bad names that weren't true, so that the media would feel that it's justified, the people would feel that it's justified that they be decimated and killed. They did similar things at Ruby Ridge. They did similar things in Blanding, Utah. The people of America have gotten wise and are smarter than that these days. And they do not want to see this happen again. So they are here to protect my family, to protect us from the tyranny of the federal government. Now, isn't that a shame? The only legitimate purpose for government is to protect our rights to life, to liberty, to property, to our pursuit of happiness. To pursue happiness. Isn't that the American dream, to pursue happiness? And to obtain it through business adventure, through making a livelihood of the land, through being able to do things on your own without being controlled by government? Is that not what the American dream is? Is that not what the pursuit of happiness is? Is that not what the purpose of government on all levels are? Is to protect this? And yet here we stand in fear. And quite honestly, I'm not in fear, but we are threatened. We are threatened from our federal government, from our own local government, who is supposed to be protecting us. And this is why the militia remains here and are determined to remain here long term, for years to come if need be. And they do need support. They do need help from the American people to send them goods and services so that they can maintain their post. And again, this is not about the Bundy family. This is not about the Bundy cattle. This is about the principles of freedom in America.